Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is about a janitor's night shift job at an art museum called the Halberton Museum. Before we dive into our story, let me give you the background history of the Halberton Museum. It was founded in 1892. The Halberton Museum began as a modest collection of antiquities donated by wealthy patrons and local historians. It was built on the grounds of a former 18th century estate, and the museum quickly gained a reputation for its vast and eclectic exhibits, ranging from ancient Egyptian artifacts to European oil portraits, many of which were sourced from old manors and estate sales. One such painting was Lady Eleanor in Mourning, acquired under mysterious circumstances in 1911 after its previous owner reportedly went mad. From the start, the museum bore whispers of the uncanny. Staff occasionally reported strange drafts in sealed wings, or paintings found askew after hours. Though dismissed as superstition, these tales persisted for generations. The Gallery 6 portrait, Lady Eleanor in Mourning, in particular, became a source of unease. It is reported that schoolchildren often left that room in tears, and guards noted chills or feelings of being watched when passing by at night. Over time, certain staff began to refuse night shifts altogether, citing unsettling dreams and whispers in empty rooms. Now that you know about the museum's history, picture this: the cavernous halls of a silent museum in the dead of night. Moonlight filtering through arched windows, casting long, eerie shadows. And in the heart of it all, a portrait, Lady Eleanor in Mourning. A seemingly still image that holds a terrifying secret. This isn't just a story, it's a visual descent into dread as the lines between art and reality blur. Prepare for a tale that will linger in your mind long after the lights are out. Let's step into the atmospheric nightmare of the night shift at the museum. The night shift at the Halberton Museum was usually peaceful. Too peaceful. For 7 years, Carl Benning had mopped its marble floors and checked its ancient halls without incident, until the portrait in Gallery 6 began to change. At first, it was the eyes. The painting, called Lady Eleanor in Mourning, showed a pale woman in a black lace dress, seated stiffly in a wooden chair. Her face was expressionless, eyes dull, painted in faded oil strokes that hadn't moved in over a century. But one night, as Carl passed her with his cart, something felt wrong. He swore her eyes were looking at him. Following him. The next night, they were definitely angled differently, now slightly to the right, not straight ahead. He chalked it up to his imagination, or maybe poor lighting. Until the following week, when her hands moved. What were once calmly folded in her lap were now clenched tightly on the chair's arms. The fingers were longer. Thinner. Almost bony. Carl asked the curator the next day if anyone had restored the painting. She looked confused. That thing? Nobody's touched it in years. It gives the school kids nightmares. He stopped mentioning it after that. But he watched. Night after night, Eleanor changed. Her lips curled into a snarl. Then cracked open into a full, silent scream. The soundless howl stretched wider every evening. Her skin looked grayer. Her eyes, brighter. Then one night, the glass in the frame was cracked. Long, spidery lines like claw marks. Carl tried to convince himself he was going mad. Maybe he was. But that didn't explain the museum's security footage. He had to check it after an alarm tripped at 3:17 a.m. on a Thursday. What he saw chilled him to the bone. At 3:17, the motion sensors in Gallery 6 flared to life. The painting's canvas rippled like water, and Lady Eleanor climbed out of it. Not walked, crawled. Slowly. Jerkily. Her joints moved too sharply. Her hands clicked as they gripped the floor. She crawled to the middle of the gallery, then vanished. The timestamp cut out. Just static. The next night, Carl showed up to work, heart pounding. He checked Gallery 6 first. The frame was empty. Bolted to the wall, yes. But no canvas. No Eleanor. He backed away slowly, whispering her name like a prayer or a curse. Then he heard a soft creak from behind him. One of the benches had shifted. Carl turned. Lady Eleanor was sitting there. In the dark. No paint. No canvas. No frame. Just her. Real. And smiling. Carl didn't move. Couldn't. His mind tried to make sense of it, how a painting could step out of itself, how she now sat only 10 feet away, her black lace dress untouched by dust, her eyes glinting like wet obsidian in the gallery's dim lights. And that smile. It wasn't warm. It was knowing. Like she'd been waiting. "Who are you?" Carl whispered. Lady Eleanor tilted her head. Her mouth didn't move, but inside Carl's skull, he heard a voice, dry and distant, like dead leaves being blown across stone. "You see me now." Carl stumbled backward, knocking over his mop bucket. Water splashed across the marble, but he barely noticed. "Security," he muttered, reaching for the radio clipped to his belt. "Static. Dead. You watched me. Night after night. You fed me." Her voice scratched at the edges of his thoughts. Memories he didn't know he had began bubbling to the surface, images of other paintings, older than the museum itself. Symbols as he'd mopped through the museum's halls for years without noticing. Whispers he'd chalked up to late-night exhaustion. "What do you want?" he gasped. Her smile widened. "To finish what began." Suddenly, the lights throughout the museum began to flicker. A low humming filled the air, like 1,000 voices humming the same sour note. Paintings on nearby walls began to vibrate. Their frames trembled. One fell with a crash, its canvas writhing. Carl turned and ran. Down past the Egyptian wing. Through the sculpture garden. Toward the front lobby, but the massive oak doors were gone, replaced with solid, windowless stone. He was sealed in. He turned back and froze. Every painting in the lobby had changed. Where there had once been historical portraits and oil landscapes, there were now images of people screaming. Trapped. Reaching out through cracked glass. Some looked like visitors he remembered seeing over the years. One looked like the curator. And in the center, a brand new canvas. Still wet. Still forming. Carl stepped closer, dread mounting with every breath. It was him. Mouth agape. Eyes wide. Caught mid-scream. Then, behind him there was some bare feet on marble. He turned slowly. Eleanor was there, only inches away. She reached up and touched his cheek with one cold, paint-stained finger. "Time to take your place." Darkness rushed in. The Halberton Museum reopened 3 days later. Carl was declared missing. Security footage mysteriously corrupted. His janitor cart stood in the hallway like he'd just stepped away for a moment. Visitors avoid Gallery 6 now. Some say the painting is back. Lady Eleanor, sitting prim and still. Others say there's something new in the background now. A faint shape in the shadows behind her chair. A man in coveralls. Mouth open. Screaming. And late at night, when the lights flicker and the halls fall silent, it's said that you can hear footsteps echoing behind you, even when you're alone. What did Carl Benning really see? Was it his mind breaking under the pressure of isolation, or was there something far darker at work in the Halberton Museum? As we dive deeper into stories like this one, it's clear that sometimes, the horrors we face aren't just ghosts or monsters, they're the things we've overlooked for too long, hidden in plain sight. The story of Lady Eleanor teaches us about the danger of ignoring the strange and unsettling things around us. Carl's gradual shift from disbelief to terror mirrors the experience of many of us when faced with the unknown. At first, we dismiss it, chalk it up to coincidence or fatigue. But what if, like Carl, we find ourselves finally staring into something far worse than we ever imagined? And then there's the bigger question: what happens when we don't stop looking? Carl's attention, his curiosity, gave Lady Eleanor the energy she needed to break free from her canvas. It makes you wonder, what would happen if we, too, paid closer attention to the things we'd prefer to ignore? Could they, too, start to change, to break out of their boundaries? As the museum reopens, and Carl's fate remains a mystery, one thing is clear: some paintings are far more than mere images. They hold stories. They hold curses. So the next time you walk past a portrait, a relic, or even just a painting in a museum, take a moment to look closer. You never know what might be watching you back. Thank you for sticking around until the end. If you've made it this far, maybe you've learned a little something about the things that lurk in the shadows of the world, and maybe about yourself, too. Stay curious, but maybe not too curious. You never know when that curiosity might draw something out of the darkness, something that never intended to stay hidden. Until next time, keep watching, and keep questioning. Sweet dreams and sleep tight if you can. Hey, horror fans. If you enjoyed our chilling tale and want to keep the spine-tingling stories coming, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Share this video with your friends, let's spread the fear together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a hair-raising moment. Join our community of thrill seekers and prepare for more eerie adventures. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared.